You know how they say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life? The day where all your dreams come together and you walk into a future full of love, trust, and forever promises? Yeah, that's what I thought too. My name is Gabrielle Union. I'm 27 years old and I was born and raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey. My life wasn't flashy or dramatic growing up, just normal. I had big dreams, a tight-knit group of friends, and a heart full of hope for the kind of love people write songs about. Then I met Jacob Walker. He walked into my world 5 years ago like he had always belonged there. Tall, charming, smart, with just the right amount of mystery and the way he looked at me. I felt like I was the only person in the room. It didn't take long for me to fall for him, and hard. We laughed together, dreamed together, talked about kids, future houses, vacations in Greece, Sunday brunches. He made me feel like I had finally found home in another human being. So when he proposed in May 2023, I said yes through happy tears and shaky hands. I thought I had won the jackpot. We set the wedding for June 2024. I dove headfirst into planning. Color palettes, venues, floral arrangements. I poured my heart into every detail. But Jacob? Jacob started pulling away. At first, I brushed it off. I figured wedding planning wasn't really his thing. Some guys just aren't into linen swatches or table placements, right? But it wasn't just disinterest. It was distance. I'd show him pictures of wedding dresses I liked, and all I'd get back was a quick, "looks good," or a lazy thumbs-up emoji. No excitement, no connection. And then there was Margaret, his mother. At first, I thought it was sweet how close they were. She called him all the time, asked his opinion on everything from lunch to light bulbs. A little intense, sure, but I told myself it was harmless. He was a mama's boy. Big deal. But as time passed, I started realizing something. I wasn't just marrying Jacob, I was marrying Margaret too. And not in the cute mother-in-law who bakes cookies kind of way. No, she was in everything, every decision, every corner of our relationship. It was like I was being slowly pushed out of my own life. The real slap in the face, figuratively at first, came when I picked out my wedding dress. It was perfect. Elegant, timeless, with a soft lace bodice and flowing satin skirt. I had dreamed of that moment since I was a little girl. The dress made me feel beautiful, strong, like I was stepping into womanhood on my own terms. I sent Jacob a picture of it, hoping he'd say something sweet. He said, "It looks beautiful." That was it. And then, apparently, he forwarded the picture to his mom. The next day, I got a call from Jacob. He sounded off. "Mom's a little upset," he said. "About what?" I asked, confused. "She thought you were going to wear her wedding dress." I blinked. "What?" "She says you promised a long time ago you'd wear it. You said you loved it." "I said it was pretty," I replied. "I never said I'd wear it at my wedding." "Well, it means a lot to her," he continued. "It's tradition." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wedding dress, my choice, was now some kind of emotional ransom. I tried to explain how much the dress I picked meant to me, how much time and energy I'd spent finding it, but he didn't seem to care. "Just make her happy," he said. "It's not a big deal." But it was, and deep down he knew it. I felt like I was being erased from my own wedding. Still, I told myself things would get better after the ceremony, that this was just pre-wedding stress, maybe pressure from his mom, that once we were married, it would all smooth out. I couldn't have been more wrong. On the morning of our wedding, I stood in front of the mirror in the bridal suite. I was glowing, nervous, butterflies in my stomach, but still ready. My dress, the one I chose, hung beautifully on my body. I felt proud, elegant, like I was finally claiming something just for me. Then Jacob walked in. He was holding something in his hands. It was his mother's old wedding dress. I laughed awkwardly. "What's going on?" His face was stone. "You're wearing this today." I stared at him. "What?" "You're wearing this dress," he said again. "It's what my mother wants." I shook my head. "Jacob, no. We talked about this. I already have my dress. This isn't happening." His eyes darkened. "She's been looking forward to this for years." "I've been looking forward to this for my entire life," I snapped. "This is my wedding too, Jacob." And then it happened. He slapped me. Hard. My face whipped to the side and I fell to the floor, stunned. I felt the sting bloom across my cheek like fire. And when I looked up, I saw her, Margaret, standing just behind him, watching, smiling. "You will not defy me," she said calmly. "Not today." Everything inside me shattered. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was done. I got up slowly, heart pounding, hands trembling, and without another word, I turned and walked out of the room, out of the venue, out of the wedding, out of that entire life. People gasped, whispers followed me, but I didn't look back, because I knew, right there, in that moment, that I would never be safe with either of them again. I left that venue with nothing but the clothes on my back and a heart that felt like it had been stomped on. I didn't have my purse. I didn't have a plan. All I knew was that I had to get as far away from Jacob and Margaret as I could. My phone was in my hand, but I didn't even know who to call. For a moment, I just stood there, shaking on the sidewalk, the sounds of wedding music muffled behind me. I could still hear people clapping, laughing inside, completely unaware that the bride had just walked out on her own wedding. And then I did what I always did when my world collapsed. I called my brother Marcus. He picked up on the first ring. "Gabby, what's wrong?" My voice broke the second I tried to speak. "I'm not getting married," I whispered. "He hit me." Silence. "I'm coming to get you right now," he said, voice hard and steady. "Where are you?" Within 20 minutes, Marcus pulled up in his old black SUV, and the second I climbed in, I crumbled. I sobbed into his shoulder like a kid again, and he just held me, not saying a word, not asking for details, just being there. He brought me home, made me tea, tucked me into the guest room and sat next to me until I finally fell asleep. That night was a blur, the kind of pain that doesn't have a name, not just from the slap, but from the betrayal, the disbelief, the cold realization that the man I thought I would build a life with had turned into someone I didn't even recognize. And worse, his mother had watched, smiled, encouraged it. I woke up the next day, and the first thing I saw in the mirror was the faint red mark on my face. But underneath that was something stronger than pain. It was rage, pure, sharp, and strangely calming. And that's when I knew. I wasn't going to stay broken. I wasn't going to cry myself to sleep night after night and let them win. No, I was going to fight back. Not with fists or screams, but with the one thing they didn't expect me to have: control. I started with something simple: a journal. I wrote everything down, every detail, every warning sign I ignored, every twisted word Margaret had ever said to me. I poured it all onto paper until my fingers cramped and my heart felt lighter. Then I took it a step further. I wrote an email, anonymous, straight to Jacob's family, his friends, even his coworkers. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I described how he had hit me on our wedding day, how Margaret had watched and approved, how they had tried to control every inch of me, right down to the dress I wore. I didn't ask for sympathy. I didn't want pity. I wanted the truth out there, and I made sure every word cut through their perfect little facade like a knife. But even that wasn't enough, not after everything they had put me through. Because you see, Jacob had secrets, the kind you don't put on wedding invitations. I remembered one night, months ago, when I found a strange folder on his laptop. At the time, I didn't think much of it, just some documents, invoices, names I didn't recognize. I asked him about it, and he brushed it off, said it was boring work stuff. But now I looked closer, and what I found made my stomach twist. Illegal import and export records, hidden bank accounts, a few offshore transactions that looked suspicious, to say the least. It hit me. Jacob wasn't just a controlling fiancé. He was breaking the law, and he didn't think I'd ever find out. But I did, and this time I wasn't going to stay quiet. I contacted the authorities, told them what I'd found, sent them copies of the documents I had recovered. I didn't leave my name, but I left enough for them to start digging. And then I waited. The days that followed were tense, quiet, almost too quiet. My email had stirred up gossip, sure. Friends were texting me things like, "Are you okay?" and "I can't believe what I'm hearing." But from Jacob and Margaret, silence. No calls, no threats, not even a fake apology. Which only told me one thing: they were scared. Good. Let them sweat. Meanwhile, I started picking up the pieces of my life, slowly, carefully. Marcus helped me apartment hunt. I got back into my routine at work, started therapy, reconnected with old friends who'd drifted away while I was busy being the perfect fiancé to a man who didn't deserve me. And for the first time in a long time, I started to feel like Gabrielle again. Not Jacob's bride, not Margaret's puppet, just me. But something in my gut told me this wasn't over. And I was right. A week later, I was sitting in a cafe, sipping a lukewarm latte and reading the news on my phone when I saw it. Businessman Jacob Walker under federal investigation for alleged smuggling and financial fraud. My heart stopped. It was real. I had lit the match, and now the fire was spreading. They were looking into him, Hard. The article didn't have all the details yet, but it mentioned anonymous tips, evidence of offshore accounts, and a history of suspicious behavior. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing but calm in a way I hadn't felt in months. They were finally being held accountable. Later that day, I got the message, a single text from an unknown number. "We need to talk, please, it's urgent." I didn't respond, but I knew who it was from. And sure enough, 2 hours later, Jacob showed up at my apartment door. I should have called the police right then. I should have slammed the door in his face. But I needed to see him. I needed to look him in the eyes and know, for myself, that I had made the right call. "Gabrielle," he said as soon as I opened the door, his voice low, desperate. I crossed my arms, standing firm. "You have 5 minutes. Make it count." He looked terrible, pale, sweaty, his eyes darting like a trapped animal. "Listen, I know you're angry." I cut him off. "Try furious, try betrayed, try disgusted." He sighed. "I didn't come here to fight. I need your help." I blinked. "My help?" "They're building a case against me. The feds. I know you tipped them off." I didn't deny it. He stepped closer. "Gabby, please, you don't know what this could do to me." "I know exactly what it could do," I snapped. "It could finally hold you accountable." His face changed then, softened, then twisted into something familiar but chilling. "Do you really want to do this?" he whispered. "You think they'll protect you when this gets ugly?" I laughed, dry and sharp. "Is that a threat?" "No," he said quickly. "It's a warning. My mother, she's not going to back down." I tilted my head. "You really still think she's the one in control, don't you?" He didn't answer. "Let me make this clear," I continued, voice steady. "You put your hands on me, in front of her, and she watched. She smiled. You both thought I was weak, but I've got news for you. I'm not the one being investigated." His face crumbled. "I loved you," he said, like it meant something. "No," I said. "You loved controlling me, and now you've lost that." I closed the door in his face. That was the last time I saw Jacob Walker in person. 3 days later, they came for him. Agents, suits, the whole scene. And Margaret? She didn't escape either. Turns out she wasn't just overbearing. She was complicit. Her name was tied to several shady business deals, hidden under family trusts and shell companies. The woman who had once told me I wasn't good enough for her son was now being dragged out of her pristine white mansion in handcuffs. When I saw the footage on the news, I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. I exhaled. Relief, quiet and full. They were finally out of my life. The next few weeks were surreal. Reporters tried to reach me. People who once gossiped behind my back were now calling to apologize, to check in, to tell me they always knew something was off. Please, I didn't need their sympathy. I needed peace. And slowly I started to find it. Therapy helped. Long walks helped. Journaling and late-night phone calls with Marcus helped. Every small act of self-care felt like another brick in the foundation I was rebuilding. But even with them gone, their shadow lingered. I still flinched at sudden noises, still checked over my shoulder when walking to my car, still questioned myself in moments when I should have felt strong. That's what trauma does. It doesn't end when the abuser is gone. It ends when you decide to fight your way through the aftershocks. And that's exactly what I planned to do. The days after Jacob and Margaret were arrested felt quiet. Not the eerie, scary kind of quiet, but the peaceful kind. Like a deep breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding for years had finally been released. I wasn't jumping up and down or throwing a party. I wasn't vengeful. I wasn't looking for closure from them, because I didn't need it anymore. Their punishment didn't erase what they did to me, but it was enough to remind me that I wasn't powerless, that I had a voice, that I had fought back and won. Still, healing wasn't some magical moment. It was a process. Some days, I woke up ready to take on the world. Other days, I curled up on the couch and cried over everything I lost. Not just the wedding or the relationship, but the girl I had been before it all. The trusting, hopeful version of me who thought love meant sacrifice and loyalty meant silence. She was gone. But in her place, someone better, someone wiser, someone stronger. I stayed with Marcus for a few more weeks. He never once rushed me, never asked me to move on or let it go. He just gave me space, freedom, the kind I hadn't realized I'd been craving for so long. I started doing little things that felt like me again. I went to yoga classes, tried that pottery workshop I'd always wanted to do, sat in bookstores for hours just because I could. I even started painting again. Nothing fancy, just messy, abstract canvases that looked like emotion poured in color. One day, while cleaning out an old drawer, I found the engagement ring. It had been tucked into a velvet box I hadn't seen since the day Jacob proposed. I held it in my hand for a long time. It used to sparkle with so much promise, but now it just looked empty. I took it to a local jeweler the next day and sold it. Then I took the money and donated it to a shelter for women escaping domestic violence. Because if even one woman could be helped, could escape a Jacob or a Margaret of her own, then that ring would finally mean something good. I also received something unexpected a few weeks later. A letter, handwritten, no return address. It was from Jacob's father. I barely knew the man. He was always in the background, distant and disconnected. But this letter? It floored me. He apologized. Not for Jacob, but for himself. For not stepping in. For not speaking up. For letting Margaret run the show, even when he saw the damage she was causing. He told me I didn't deserve what happened. That he admired my strength. That if he had had half my courage, maybe things would have been different. I cried reading that letter, not because it fixed anything, but because it reminded me that someone saw the truth. And that mattered. By fall, I had moved into a new apartment. A bright little place with big windows and hardwood floors. I painted the walls myself, hung string lights, and filled it with plants that I hoped wouldn't die on me. It was mine, every inch of it. No Margaret, no Jacob, just Gabrielle. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. Not just survive, live. I took a trip to Spain with my best friend Camille. A trip that was originally supposed to be our honeymoon. But instead of sipping wine with a man who tried to control me, I danced in the streets of Seville with my best friend, laughing until I couldn't breathe. We watched sunsets over the ocean, took blurry pictures in alleyways, ate way too much cheese. It was magical. It reminded me that the world is still full of joy, that love doesn't have to hurt, that the people who are meant to be in your life will never ask you to shrink yourself to fit their expectations. And when I came home, I was changed. Not in a flashy, dramatic way, but in a quiet, grounded way. I no longer jumped at every phone call. I no longer second-guessed my worth. I no longer apologized for taking up space. I had rebuilt my life piece by piece. And yeah, I still had scars. Some days were still hard. Some nights, I still woke up from dreams that felt too real. But I had tools now. I had people. I had me. One evening, I sat on my new couch, a cup of tea in hand, soft jazz playing in the background, and I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't haunted by their voices. I wasn't weighed down by what-ifs. I wasn't wishing for a different past. I had survived it. I had rewritten my story. And from now on, I'd be the one holding the pen.